Republicans are freaking out right now and trying to defeat the SAVE Act after looking in the passport data and seeing that the top states that have the lowest amount of passport ownership are red states, states that overwhelmingly support Trump, and that this act will disproportionately affect negatively their voters. So they're trying to stop this now in the Senate. And here are the states. This is truly unbelievable. These people are something else. Mississippi, West Virginia, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Indiana, and South Dakota. Those are the top states with the least amount of passport ownership. And much of it is because of the median incomes. They can't afford them, and they don't do a lot of international travel. The coastal states have much more ownership of passports, and those all tend to go more blue typically, but the top states that do have the most passport ownership are California, New York, and New Jersey. And guys, honestly, at this point, if this passes by some miracle, I think it would actually just really help the Democrats. And they're realizing that now and trying to stop their own idiotic bill. So we'll see what happens here, guys. This is going to be an interesting week coming up. I know it's only Saturday, but yeah, we're in for some fireworks here. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 4.
Hey there, folks. My woke warriors, the fighters of fascism, Antifa, the avengers against authoritarianism. This is just a quick message for all the liberal ladies that happen to be married to the MAGA morons. If that SAVE Act goes through, burn his birth certificate. You don't know where it went. And like always, fuck hillbilly ISIS.
They thought it wouldn't affect someone else. They cheered, they supported it, they defended it, but now the numbers are out. And some voters are realizing they might be one of the most impacted. Today, we are talking about the Save America Act, passport ownership in red states, and why this conversation is making some MAGA voter very, very uncomfortable. Guys, this is Lucas Tech, and today we are breaking down what is really going on in United States.
I really do try not to be political, but it's hard under this political climate. Now, last week the SAVE Act has been passed in the House of Representatives, and if you don't know what the SAVE Act is, well, I'm here to tell you. To sum it up, it is a voter suppression bill, and if you're not educated, you wouldn't see anything wrong with the bill, because how they're proposing it is saying that they're protecting the elections from non-U.S. citizens, and to make sure it's only Americans that are voting. But here's many issues behind that, because again, that statement might sound like it's fair, but you won't believe that it is fair if you're not educated. Again, the first issue is that it is a non-issue. The percentage of non-U.S. citizens voting on elections is less than 5 or 3%. The rest of the 96-7% are Americans, so it is fine. There's nothing to protect. Number two, as soon as the bill becomes a law, they want to implement it right then and there, which is another issue, because that's when the voter suppression comes in. Not every American have the correct document to prepare themselves to vote, which will affect the primaries and the midterm elections going on currently. How is it a voter suppression? Well, you can't use your driver's license as a form of ID anymore. Only in 5 states will they allow that. The other 45, you need to have a proof of citizenship in America. No matter if it's a real ID or not, it doesn't work. So you will have to have like a birth certificate or a passport, things of that. And I think it's like an original birth certificate at that. But half of America don't have passports or like their birth certificate on hand. And then there's another issue where it pertains to women. Well, really married women, because now that your last name has changed and is different from your original birth certificate, it's going to be a lot difficult or harder to prove that you're a U.S. citizen now. And let's say that you do and you have all the information and you go up to the voter polls, they can still refuse you and say that these documents could have been faked or tampered with. And to throw salt on wound, the people who are going to help in the elections, they're getting threatened with like federal time if they allow people who don't have the correct documents to vote. So if you can't prove that you're a U.S. citizen, or they can say it's tampered with, even if you have true, real documents, they can deny you, and you're just stuck. I think the last step for this bill to become law is for the president to stamp, and the bill is made for him. So just, again, be educated, be media educated, be politically educated, and if you can, try to get your birth certificate or your passport or some document that is stating that you're a U.S. citizen so you can vote, because they're really trying their hardest to take your vote away.
I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, but is there any way that we can have an open dialogue really quickly about the SAVE Act and what it entails exactly and what it means? Because as a moderate voter, I can get myself behind voter ID. I have no problem with that. Republicans are doing a great job at selling, I think, the American people on that, because it's a good idea. What I do not understand is why that means we're against mail-in ballots. I understand that it takes longer to count. I understand that people claim, this and that. But if there's voter ID, what's the issue with mail-in ballot? Like if I go to the DMV physically, right, and I renew my driver's license and I have the real ID on my driver's license, then the DMV knows, okay, like this person has real ID. Would you like to opt in for mail-in ballots? Why can't we? Is that not valid? They know I have my ID. I'm missing something here. Really do feel like the average person likes their mail-in ballots. Like, I don't care. Who the fuck is actually going to the polls? And if you're going to the polls, don't take offense. I'm just saying, like, in general, I do feel like people appreciate their mail-in ballots. I guess I'm asking, like, is there a way that we can have both? Like, is there not a check and balance system at the DMV where it's like, okay, like, you not only do you have your driver's license, but you also have your real ID on it. Would you like to opt in for mail-in ballots? Yes, I would. And then we can continue. I have the voter ID. I get my mail-in ballot. I'm confused.
So here it is what's happening. The Save America Act focuses on stricter documentation, requirements, proof, citizenship, tighter voter ID rules, and stronger verification process. Supporters say it protects election integrity. Really? But critics are asking, who does it actually affect the most? Now here it is where it gets interesting. Recent passport data shows that passport ownership is significantly lower in many conservative rural and red-leaning states compared to blue states. And why doesn't that matter? If proof of citizenship requirement, then heavy documentation like passport, millions of Americans who don't travel internationally may suddenly find themselves needing paperwork they never needed before, because now it's somehow different. We are talking about rural voter, older Americans, married women who change their last name, lower incomes communities, many different people from those kind of community, and many of them are called publicans voters. So the big question is about election security, or could even affect people, all obstacle for every based on supporter who supported Mr. Donald Trump. Politics gets complicated when policy meet reality, and when data enter the conversation, it is somehow tricky. So those who supported Mr. Donald Trump, they never thought this will happen to them.
Only 48% of Americans have a passport, and the differences state by state is massive. You'll notice it also closely follows the same pattern as per capita income. New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, New York, all above 70%. These are also some of the wealthiest states in the country, whereas West Virginia and Mississippi sit at the bottom for both, 20% and 22% passport ownership, and they're also the two poorest states. Now compare that globally, and the US sits right in the middle at 48% of citizens owning a passport. So what's actually driving this? Geographical necessity is the biggest factor. If you're on an island or in a small country, you physically need a passport to leave. But in massive countries like the US, the pressure drops. The United States, Germany, France, China, Brazil, they're all huge, all diverse geographically, and they all have lower passport ownership. There's also financial considerations. Passports aren't free. International travel is expensive. Wealthier populations travel more. That's why passport ownership tracks income, both globally and within the US. And cultural factors matter too. Americans get less vacation time than most developed countries. 2 weeks a year makes international travel harder to justify when domestic options are, at times, cheaper and easier. So in reality, the geography that made Americans wealthy enough to travel anywhere also made it big enough that most people don't have to.
The irony of the Republicans trying to push through the SAVE Act is it will actually hurt Republicans more than it will hurt people on the left. The top 10 states that have the lowest amount of the population owning a passport and being under 30% of the people having a passport are all red. Every last one of them is a Republican state. And now we all know the Republicans have made it very clear that it is these good Christian Republican women who are getting married and being obedient to their husbands. So people on the left, these women on the left, are less likely to be married. We all know the left is far more cultured than those on the right, so they actually are more likely to have a passport and travel outside of their hometown. Statistics also show the more educated you are, the more likely you are going to vote Democratic and lean to the left. Statistics also show the more educated you are as a woman, the less likelihood that you will change your last name after being married. So it looks like the Republicans just screwed themselves over yet again.
At the end of the day, laws don't just affect the other side. They affect real people, real family, and real voters. And sometimes the impact hits closer to home than expected. What do you think about this? Is it that necessary reform or just political backfire? Guys, tell us what you think. Drop your thought in the comments and let's talk about what's really happening right now. If you appreciate the real conversation without fear, make sure hit the like button, subscribe, and join the Liquor State community. See you in the next one. I love you because this episode is far from the end. I love you guys.